Hi, I'm Rick Fujimoto, and today I'm going to be talking about Fiat Chrysler automobiles and their affordability strategic business area. Fiat Chrysler Group was founded in 1899 and is currently based in London. It's managed by its current CEO, Sergio Marchionne, and it owns the car brands Abarth, Alfa Romeo, Chrysler, Dodge, Fiat, Jeep, Maserati, and the parts brand Mopar. It currently has dealers in 150 different countries and over 235,000 worldwide employees. Its annual revenue is about $117 billion, and it has an annual profit of about $2 billion. The stock, Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, trades on the New York Stock Exchange, and is worth $16 billion. Today we're talking about the affordability SBA for Fiat Chrysler Group, and it is the largest SBA that Fiat Chrysler currently competes in. When I say affordability, I don't just mean price, I also mean value. So in other words, what is the lowest price I can pay for a car that has all the features that I'm looking for? Some examples of the different makes and models that Fiat Chrysler has to address this particular SBA are listed here. So within the affordability SBA, there is basic transportation is the need that is looking to be served. Also utility, and in a lot of regions of the world, and people are they see a car as having freedom and is equal to being free because it allows them to have transportation to get where they need to go. The different customer types that this SBA addresses are moderate income individuals and people that aren't necessarily auto enthusiasts. With regard to technology, technology is used to make the production process of cars within this SBA more efficient, and it also means for the particular cars within the strategic business area that they come with upgraded technology as time goes on. So for example, lately that's been like Bluetooth, and in the past it's been like power windows and door locks, which now have become pretty much automatic. So finally, the geographic area is that most countries have a market for affordable cars. In the US market, that might be around $20,000 and would come with cars that may have Bluetooth and power windows and door locks, whereas in other countries like less developed places, for example, it would be cars that would sell for a much cheaper price, maybe $10,000 or $12,000, and not come with those extra features like Bluetooth. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about environmental turbulence. What I did here was rate the different aspects of Fiat Chrysler Group and how they score on an environmental turbulence scale. And as you can see here, I rated them a 5 for discontinuity, but then a 3 for the unpredictability, and a 2 for instability. All things average out to about a 3.2. Next slide, please. So in strategic aggressiveness, I did a similar analysis where I rated Fiat Chrysler Group's positioning in its strategic aggressiveness. And within all of the different categories of strategic aggressiveness, I rated Fiat Chrysler Group a 3 with an average of 3. So moving to capability responsiveness, this is the management success profile. Everything was rated a 4, and the reason why I felt like Fiat Chrysler Group was especially well positioned within the management portion of capability responsiveness was because they have a lot of different other SBAs that require slightly more experience and slightly more technology-driven knowledge, and because the same management team manages those SBAs as well, I felt like they were particularly adept at being able to manage the affordability SBA, which is a little less complicated. So I gave them overall a 4 in this area. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about the alignment of those three things: turbulence, aggressiveness, and responsiveness. So this is kind of a summary chart detailing the last three things. So turbulence was a 3, strategic aggressiveness a 3, and on average the responsiveness of management was a 4. So that kind of tells you where the current positioning of Fiat Chrysler Group is right now. Next, I also thought about the future and what a dominant position within the affordability SBA might look like. And that would be a 4 on all three different categories. And so this chart kind of represents the current present profile and the future profile of where they need to be, and also illustrates the gap at which they need to close to be truly a competitive player in this SBA. This is another way of looking at the same type of thing. It is where the company's positioned, and it basically talks about is the attractiveness of the affordability SBA something that is worth going after? Is it a good enough market to want to pursue? And I definitely rated it as good because the market's so big and there's a lot of profit involved in it. And then on the firm's extrapolated competitive position, so is the firm capable of achieving a good competitive position? And since I thought that that gap was relatively small and they only needed to do a few things to close it, I thought they were also capable of doing that. And so a good equates to an optimization strategy for addressing the current SBA. So finally, we're going to talk a little bit about opening up a new plant overseas manufacturing facility. And so I chose Toluca, Mexico because Fiat Chrysler Group actually does have a plant there. And so if we were kind of starting from scratch and moving over, what would that kind of look like? And so I said that first we would come up with a forecasting unit, and that forecasting unit would be comprised of mid-level managers with experience working at a plant like that back in the home market in Europe. And those managers would be appointed and report to higher level managers. And what their responsibilities would be would basically to provide surveillance of internal and external issues that arise and determine the importance of those issues and then route them to the appropriate place for resolution. And then depending on if those things would work out well or if they would need to be addressed further, they could report back to their managers at corporate headquarters and determine what the best way to handle them would be for the future. Next is resistance to change. So within that new plant that we just opened, there are two different types of resistance to change. The first being systemic resistance to change, and the second being behavioral resistance. So systemic is resistance to change having to do with the firm, and behavioral resistance to change is having to do with the people involved in the firm. So the couple of examples that I wanted to point out were, first, the time and cost overruns. So say, for example, in coming up with our plant, we wanted to be up and running in 2 years and spend $50 million to get started and to build the plant. Well, it turns out that after 2 years, we spent the $50 million and we're still only 75% done with the plant. So that would be an example of a systemic resistance to change, where we just had a level of ignorance where we just weren't able to properly project the cost and time to complete the job. Second would be wrong product mix. So for example, our testing said that we need 60% affordability market cars and 40% luxury market cars. And when we actually rolled out that production, we found a lot of luxury cars sitting on the market because our actual mix that we needed was 80-20. So that would be another example. Moving on to behavioral, I think that there's definitely going to be a language barrier. The people coming over from Europe that speak either English or Italian, they knew that there was going to be an English barrier, so they took Spanish classes. Nevertheless, when they came out and hired local employees to start working in the plant, there was a language barrier, and the language barrier contributed to some animosity and a rift between the higher level employees and the lower level employees, and it hurt production at the plant because the lower level employees, having a different culture, a different language, they might not feel as motivated to work for people that they don't identify with. And then secondly, having lower initial quality. We might, upon opening this plant, the new people that we hire, even though they go through extensive training, they might not be at the same position to where people in the home market in Europe would be. And so the production is not going to be as high initially as we initially forecast. So finally, the change management system that I chose was the managed resistance to change management system. And in order to implement that, we're able to customize the speed of it as far as how we install it and implement it, and I liked that particular aspect of it. I also liked that it had a moderate urgency, and I thought that was particularly appropriate for this particular plant in Mexico, because a lot of the other options were either a really, really rapid implementation or really, really slow and methodical implementation. And I think that while it's important to get it ramped up and get it producing as quickly as possible, I think that we've identified several areas that there might be resistance to change, and so we want to be sensitive to that and kind of take our time and use a more moderate approach. Finally, the accordion method, as this is kind of known, it involves different modules, and the book pointed out 4 of which that are particularly appropriate for the managed resistance model that I've chosen, and they are capability planning, leadership, surveillance, and strategic planning. So finally, in summary, I'd like to remind everyone that Fiat Chrysler Group's largest SPA is the affordability SPA. There's a vast global market for these types of vehicles, and I think that Fiat Chrysler possesses the environmental turbulence, strategic aggressiveness, and high capacity responsiveness that are able to allow it to compete well within this SBA. Especially the management profile, I think, is particularly ready for the challenge to achieve a strong competitive position. So kind of in conclusion, I think that the affordability SBA is worth optimizing for Fiat Chrysler Group, and one of the ways that they can do it is by kind of starting the new facility in Toluca, Mexico, where they can produce cars for the North American market. And as long as they are sensitive to the strategic response system and kind of implement and be sensitive to the factors and resistance to change and utilize a change management system, I think they'll be in a good place to succeed. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I look forward to hearing your comments and feedback. Thank you.